Hello, everybody, and welcome here up at BSN Network. Today is Friday, May 20th. Hope everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Friday, May 20th here today. Big night, big day yesterday in sports, and another big day so far today as well in the world of sports. Rangers tonight, we're just a little less than 2 hours out, so hopefully Rangers can tie the series up today. Big game today. You got to hope that, you can get the win, you tie it up, you go back home, and you get Game 3 Sunday at the Garden, and then Tuesday will be Game 4 at the Garden, and then you kind of really feel good about where you're at, and maybe you could take a game there or two games there, and you go up 3-1, and you're really dreaming at that point. That's way down the road. But a big game tonight. If the Rangers can take care of business, in North Carolina, in Raleigh, North Carolina, there, at PNC Arena with the home of the Hurricanes, you got to take care of business tonight. Falling down 2-0 is very difficult. I don't care if you're going home or not going back home. Falling down 2-0 is not easy. So Rangers need to make sure they take care of business tonight. We'll see what they can do. No baseball tonight. We're about less than 2 hours out from the Rangers. No baseball tonight. Yankees postponed due to rain, and the Mets are out in Colorado, and it's snowing there. They're postponed due to snow, and it's supposed to snow, from what I'm hearing, from what you're seeing, it's supposed to snow tonight, and I think into tomorrow a little bit. So who knows how many games of that series they're going to be able to get in. Also depends on how much snow they get. If the field's covered in snow and it's not melting, it's going to be tough to play. So you kind of have to put that in perspective too. You got to wonder how many games they will be able to actually get out of that series. But I find it funny because you're going from snowy Colorado, and then they go to the beaches in San Francisco right after this, where the stadium's right on the water there in San Francisco. So it's kind of funny. It's funny that they go from Colorado, where it's snowing right now on May 20th, and then you're going to go to San Francisco for 4 games after Colorado, I believe starting on Monday, where it's going to be sunny right on the water, and they can go swimming after the game if they really wanted to. So it's just funny how it all works out and how weather works. But both games postponed tonight. Yankees will be made up as a doubleheader on Sunday, 3 o'clock game, then the Sunday night baseball game, which will be at 7. And the Mets, I haven't really I haven't exactly checked yet of when that will be made up. But all I know is they got postponed today. Rest of the weather this weekend for the Yankees looks fine. For the Mets, however, it's interesting. So it looks like it will be part as a doubleheader tomorrow. So 1:10 and a 6:40 p.m. So tomorrow will be a doubleheader for the Mets. Sunday will be a doubleheader for the Yankees. So both those games postponed for weather, but completely different types of weather. Both precipitation, one rain, the other one snow. Mets also have a lot of news. Let's get into the topics for today's podcast. A lot to get to, a lot of baseball stuff. We start off with the news that has been going around all of yesterday and all of today, and that is Max Scherzer out 6 to 8 weeks. So he left the other day. He left Wednesday's game, pulled himself out of the game, which is very rare for Max Scherzer, a guy who's an absolute warrior out there, an absolute fighter out there, a guy who does not want to come out at any time, at any point in the ball game. One of the rare pitchers in baseball you see now every single game up his pitch count up to 95, 100 pitches. You don't see that often anymore in baseball. He's one of those guys to do it. He called out the trainers. They took him out. They didn't think it was anything major at first. Well, it's not season ending, but it's up to 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks. He's going to miss at least a month and a half and up to 2 months. So you're looking at the possibility of Max Scherzer not being back until after the All-Star break, and Jacob deGrom's still out. So Mets now have a huge hole in their rotation. We'll talk about it, get into what this means, and where do they go from here to fill the shoes of Max Scherzer during his absence. We'll get to that. I also want to get to Juan Soto. There's been a couple articles, a couple reports coming out the past couple days about his trade rumors and, a situation around him and the Nationals, who are a struggling team right now. There was a source that came out. There was a rumor that came out that, MLB executives believe that They believe that they will trade him. Then Scott Boras, his agent, said a little bit later that there's no plans of trading him. Nationals are going to hang on to Juan Soto and look for a long-term deal. So it's kind of two sides going at it. It's kind of what report do you believe? I side more with his agent because that's his agent. That's the guy that's working with him. That's the guy that's working with him face-to-face. The MLB executives are other guys from other teams that kind of have that feeling maybe with calls that they've had. So I believe more about Scott Boras. But either way, do I think the Nationals will deal him? And if so, what's the return? How the Yankees and Mets can be involved? I don't think it's going to happen. And I also will tell you why the Nationals should not deal Juan Soto. Specifically, there's one big reason why. I'll get to that. And then we'll get to the New York sports update and wrap things up. Like I said, going to try to keep this 30 to 40 minutes, given that the Rangers are on in less than 2 hours here. About an hour and 40 out from the Ranger game, which starts 8 Eastern on ESPN. So ESPN and MSG. So that should be good. Excited to watch that. Looking for the Rangers to tie the series up 1-1. Got to be ready. We got to be ready. That Hurricanes team that we saw in the third period, that's what we're going to see tonight. So Rangers need to find a way to counter that. Whatever it takes. Our top six needs to be better. Our first two lines need to be better. Our third line's been great with the kids. The kid line's been awesome. We need to find a way to really get those top six players. Kreider, Bread, Mika, all those guys get involved. They got to start shooting. They got to get good opportunities. Because if they don't, they had their spurts in the Pittsburgh series, but they were, in the Pittsburgh series, the games that we lost, the top six was non-existent. The games we won, they made impact. So when they make an impact, we win games. They need to do that tonight. So that will be all included in the New York Sports Update. But with all that being said, a lot to get to today. This is BSN Podcast. And let's get right into it. So Mets Max Scherzer out 6 to 8 weeks with an oblique injury diagnosed as strained. So as I mentioned a couple minutes ago in my intro, to go a little bit more in depth here into what the Mets, what took place with the Mets ace on Wednesday night against the Cardinals. He was pitching well, pitching really solid. He's got pitching to an ERA this season below 3. I believe it's in the 2.5s or 2.6s, something like that. His ERA is very low this season, and he's been very good. He's been a solid asset. Has he been the dominant pitcher? Is he the best pitcher in baseball right now? No, but he's definitely up there. Has there been moments of maybe him not having his best stuff? Yeah, but it's the first couple starts of the season. But he's been the usual Max Scherzer. He's shown times of that. He's shown flashes of that this year. There's also been some flashes of maybe a little bit of rustiness. But for all in all, he's been the Mets' best pitcher, and he's still one of the best pitchers in baseball. But on Wednesday, and you knew this wasn't good if you're a Met fan, because on Wednesday, they were playing against the Cardinals. He was pitching. He was rolling, pitching very well against a good Cardinals lineup, going up and down. And he called out to the trainers. He threw a pitch, didn't feel right, called out to the trainers, was pointing to his side. And as a Met fan and as a Met player, and the Mets in general as an organization, that's concerning. Because Scherzer is a guy that very rarely comes out of games. This is a guy who I always remember with the Nationals. The day before he was taken, there was BP, and he wasn't looking or something. He got drilled in the face with a baseball, and he broke his nose. And people were like, oh no, how long is he going to be out? He pitched the next day, and he dominated. He threw like 8 innings, 10 strikeouts, something like that. You could Google it. He had the big black eye, and he dominated. So it was rare. He's always been known as that kind of tough guy. Battles through injuries, battles through pain, and a guy too who wants to be out there pitching. He's not a guy that he's not a guy that's going to be okay with, like Jordan Montgomery got taken out yesterday with 70 pitches. That's not going to happen with Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer's going to yell at you. He's going to do everything in his power to go back out there on the mound. If the bullpen, let's say the reliever's coming into the game, Scherzer's running out there on the mound and taking that ball because he wants to be in there. That's the type of competitor he is, and that's why he's had so much success in his career. Because he is a competitor, he's a tough player. He's tough as nails. He just goes out there and competes, fights, battles, wants to do everything he can to help the team win. He wants to be out there with his team. He's not a guy that's into this analytic stuff. He pitches, and around 95, 100 pitches, that's when you could take out Scherzer. But he's a guy that's always up there, and you always look at his pitch count, he's up there. So it was really alarming when you saw him call over because, because for a guy that does not do that often, for a guy that's had many moments in his career, pitches through pain, fights through the wounds, battles, and competes, it was concerning to see that. gets taken out. He even said in his post-game interview, it just was that feeling that you just did not want to throw another pitch. And that was obviously smart because 6 to 8 weeks isn't good. We all know it. But let's say he throws another pitch or a couple more or finishes out the inning. Well, all of a sudden, maybe instead of 6 to 8 weeks, you're looking at him done for the regular season. So you also have to have that long-term vision in mind if you're Scherzer and the Mets. Even though in the heat of the moment, you might want to try to fight through it. If it really feels like it's something that's concerning, take yourself out, risk the really, really long-term issue or the really bad thing, and that is done for the year, and take the 6 to 8 weeks. It's not good, but it's better than being done for the year, gets taken out. At first, all the reports were saying it wasn't anything major. Went for imaging. Yesterday found out he's out 6 to 8 weeks. So, I talked about at the beginning of the season. I brought up a point. And the Mets have done a great job of this. And you got to give credit. At the beginning of the season, when I did my power rankings, I said the Mets are wherever I had them because of DeGrom being out. And you got to see what they're like without Jacob DeGrom. I had the Mets coming in the season at number 9 on my MLB power rankings. So they're probably now more of a top 5 team, but I had them coming in at 9 because of DeGrom. And I said, you're going to find a lot out about this Mets team in the first just like 2 weeks to see what they're like without DeGrom. Because last year they struggled without DeGrom. And I know it's a different team, different manager, different people making different decisions. I get that. But you're still without Jacob DeGrom. And I said at the beginning of the year, you're going to find a whole lot out about this team without DeGrom, and you're going to find it early because DeGrom's going to miss the whole month of April, might be back in May. He's not back in May yet. I mean, he probably won't be back until mid-June, maybe July. I mean, I think he's begin throwing, but he's not really, I think he has started throwing again, but it's going to still take some time. Probably more middle of June we're talking now is more of a realistic, thing for DeGrom, and it's also now you got to wonder with Scherzer now is, he might not even be back until the All-Star break. I mean, the shortest is 6 weeks, which is a month and a half, so that's about early July. All-Star break's like middle of July, so you're more looking at him not coming back until after the All-Star break, and it makes sense, because it makes more sense. All-Star break gives him more time to heal anyway. But I said at the beginning of the season, you're going to find out a lot about this team. And I said, if the Mets can just keep their head above water, for at least these first 2 months of the season, even if it just means, winning games, it might not be the prettiest of victories, but just winning games and keeping their head above water, that's big. And the Mets have done exactly that, and they've done more than that. They're one of the best teams in baseball now. Not just record-wise, but what you watch on TV, they put a very great product on the field. And even with the Scherzer injury, that can kind of bring a team down a little bit. Well, they came back, they fought in yesterday's game, and boom, Pete Alonso, hit a tank to left field to win it. It was a no-doubter. The Cardinals broadcast was hilarious. They knew it right off the bat. It was like Alonso walks it off, Mets wins, take 3 out of 4 or something. And it was just silence for the rest of the time he was rounding the bases. It was a great hit. But they've lived up to that challenge. So now you have another challenge. Now you have a really big challenge because you had Scherzer throughout that stretch. And the Mets passed that first test. Can you win without DeGrom? And they've proven up to this point of the season they have been able to. And they've been able to win, not just win, but win at a very consistent rate. They're first in the NL East. They have one of the best records in baseball. They're walking it off. They're coming back in games. They're battling. They're fighting. Their pitching staff's doing their job. The Mets right now are 26-14. And they're 7 games up on the Phillies in the NL East. So they got a very big cushion. So they've lived up to that challenge. Scherzer's done his job, has been very good. He's been the Max Scherzer we all know, and that is one of the more dominant pitchers in baseball. Now you have another challenge. And it's another challenge for this Met team to conquer early in the year. We're only in May, people. The Mets are 40 games into this season? 40 games into this season? It's not like the Mets are, 150 games in. They're 40 games into the season. They've already played, 40 without DeGrom, and now they're going to have to play at least 2 months worth, at least 1.5 month, at least a month and a half worth of games without Scherzer. So here comes another challenge for the New York Mets. And they're now without DeGrom and without Max Scherzer. And I talked about it earlier in the season. How everyone's role on the team gets a little bit bigger. Now everyone's role gets a whole lot bigger. Because now you're kind of relying on Chris Bassett to be that guy, to be that ace in a way, Tyler McGill, you're relying on him to keep up what he's done this early on this season. I know he didn't have a great start the last time out, but he still had a very good season so far. You're relying on Carlos Carrasco to really dominate. And then you're going to have to rely on somebody else to come up, whether you strike a trade, whether you go out and sign somebody, whether you just bring somebody up through the farm system, whether right now you roll with kind of a four-man rotation and maybe use an opener. However it is, the Mets need to find a way to glue a rotation together. And everyone's role in the rotation gets that much bigger. So now you're going to learn even more about this Mets team. And the Mets right now are at 26-14. And that's great. They're playing well. They just got done taking 3 of 4 against St. Louis. But now you've already been without DeGrom. Now you're without Scherzer. This is where the season can't go south. Because if you start to go south, and I can't believe I'm already talking about this, but I mean we're only about 2 months out from the All-Star break. And you go into the All-Star break tumbling and stumbling, and maybe you go to the All-Star break 5 games above 500, and you're only like 3 up in the NL East, then there's true reason to be concerned. So whatever the Mets decide to do, they need to make a move fast. Whether that's make a trade. I know Frankie Montas has been on the radar for some teams. He's on an A's team that's in last place in the AL West, which is no surprise. They're a team that got rid of a whole lot of talent this year. They're 8 games below 500, 9.5 out from first place, which I believe the Astros right now have the division with the Angels behind them. So do you look at him maybe as an option? Do you just roll with what you got, fill a piece in here and there? Do you pick somebody up from your farm, go out and sign somebody? I mean, what do you do? I mean, there was a video today of Bartolo Colon thrown. Do you sign 48-year-old Bartolo Colon? I don't foresee it happen. I'm just joking. But what do the Mets do here? I think for the Mets, it's best to, whatever in this situation is best. Because you got to realize, right now as a Met fan, you might feel like it's best to strike a trade. But let's be honest. Scherzer, if everything goes well, will be back, and DeGrom will be back. And it might not be until late July, but they'll be both back and pitching together at some point this season, as long as everything health-wise goes well with both of their injuries. As long as there's no setbacks or severe season-ending injuries that happens along the way, they'll both pitch eventually. So the Mets, although in a time like this, you might need to find like a short-term solution. Frankie Montas is a solid pitcher, and the A's are going to want a lot. It might not be the greatest decision to go out and pull the trigger, and give up a good amount of stuff for a guy that's more of a short-term fix. Because this is kind of a short-term fix. You also have to hope that DeGrom's back before July. And let's hope, you got to hope if you're a Met fan that DeGrom's back before the end of June. And you got to hope. I mean, if he's not back before the end of June and he's not back until after the All-Star break, then maybe you look more towards long-term solution. I don't foresee the Mets going out and making a trade. I personally don't. Would I disagree with a trade? No. But, if you're the Mets, would you go out and make this massive deal for like a Frankie Montas? No. I mean, I would, for the right value, for the right amount, yeah, I would. I wouldn't, I would have no issue with that. But, giving up a lot of pieces, I don't know how I would feel about that. So, the Mets got a lot of decisions on their hand. What do they do? Because, and I said it at the beginning of the season with DeGrom. This isn't just 2 pitchers you're missing. This is Jacob DeGrom and Max Scherzer. 2 of the arguably the best pitchers in baseball that you're without. And for Mets fans, it's been frustrating. They have yet to pitch at the same time this season. DeGrom hasn't pitched yet, and now Scherzer's out. So it's got to be frustrating. And we talked about the beginning of the year for Mets. As long as they can stay healthy, they have the best rotation in baseball. Well, they're not healthy. And you just got to hope if you're a Met fan that everything goes well and that Scherzer takes the least amount of time possible and DeGrom's back as early as possible. Because they got through the first challenge with DeGrom being out. Thanks to the rest of the rotation picking up a lot of the load, and you still have Max Scherzer. Now Scherzer's out. Now you really look at your rotation, it's almost like you really don't have that one ace of your rotation. I mean, Chris Bass is very good, but he's never really had that ace role in his career. He's been off to a very good start. You're going to have to rely on Taijuan Walker a lot more. Carlos Carrasco. Those 2 guys have kind of had up and down seasons this year a little bit. You're going to have to rely on them to really come through big now. So a lot of guys need to step up for the Mets. And, this is another challenge earlier in the year. And this also shows Buck Showalter has also done a great job as manager. Because you start off the season without DeGrom, and they find ways to win. Now you're without Scherzer, and, we'll see if they still find ways to win. If they still find ways to win without Scherzer and DeGrom, and their pitching still stays up, well, number one, you got to give credit to Showalter. Number two, you got to just give credit to this front office for going out and getting guys like Bassett and Carrasco and Walker and Tyler McGill and all that stuff, and all those guys and all those pieces. So Mets Max Scherzer out 6 to 8 weeks with oblique injury diagnosed as strain. New York Mets starting pitcher Max Scherzer is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks after suffering a moderate to high-grade oblique strain during Wednesday's start against the St. Louis Cardinals. Scherzer removed himself from the game after he felt soreness on his left side. He hoped his decision to come out when he felt the pain would prevent a more serious injury. Just felt a zing on my left side and just knew I was done, he told reporters. When I felt it, I just knew there was no way you could throw another pitch, so just get out there. Just get out of there. New York manager Buck Showalter said Scherzer was also dealing with multiple blisters on his pitching hand during his last 2 starts. It's the latest setback for a Mets rotation that looked like one of MLB's best coming into the year. Jacob deGrom, the 2018-2019 NL Cy Young Award winner, has yet to start a game this season because of a shoulder injury suffered in spring training. Tyler McGill, who compiled a 2.43 ERA through 6 starts before giving up 8 runs against the Washington Nationals last week, was subsequently placed on the injury list with biceps tendonitis. Don't think I mentioned that earlier, but Tyler McGill is out. What I'm hearing is he most likely, and this is the reason why I didn't mention this earlier in the pod, and I did bring up McGill's name. The reason why it doesn't seem like it's something that's major, probably 10-day IL, will probably be back within the next couple weeks. That's personally what I'm seeing. Who knows? But he's another piece too. If McGill's out, then you go with Bassett, Taijuan Walker, and then, Carlos Carrasco. You have to put Peterson in there. And you have to bring in somebody else. I mean, then you're really shorthanded. If McGill's out long term, he's out now. I don't know if I brought that up earlier. I don't think I did. I did hear about that, but I kept on bringing up McGill's name because McGill most likely will be back before DeGrom and Scherzer are back. So he's still going to have to play a big role when he comes back, which I imagine will be before DeGrom or Scherzer. I don't see it something that's crazy long. Taijuan Walker also spent time on the IL with a shoulder injury, but returned in late April after missing just shy of 3 weeks. Between Walker, Chris Bassett, Carlos Carrasco, and Trevor Williams, the Mets should have still enough starting depth to avoid a major drop-off. But the Mets, with the rotation upside, is obviously severely hampered without DeGrom, McGill, and potentially Scherzer. David Peterson is an option to get called up from AAA if Scherzer lands on the IL. He will, which he is going to be on the IL. He's going to be on there for 6 to 8 weeks and be on the IL. He's a guy. I think David Peterson, as I mentioned, I think he's been up a couple times. I think he started a couple games this year. He's an option as well. If the Mets own the MLB's third best record at 25-14. They're now 26-14, which also puts them 6 games ahead of Philadelphia for the NL East Division lead. They're 7 now up on Philly. New York wraps up a 4-game series with the Cardinals on Thursday before a 6-game road trip with stops to face the Colorado Rockies and San Francisco Giants. 6-game road trip, so it's 3 in Colorado, 3 in San Francisco. I messed that up. I think I said 4 in San Fran. Some of those numbers are off, though. They did finish up the Cardinals series yesterday. They're 7 up on the Phillies. They're 26-14. Now, at the end of today, they could be 6 up on the Phillies because the Phillies start up a series tonight. Against the Dodgers, which they just played the Dodgers the other day. Or last weekend they just played the Dodgers. So tonight they start up a series, 3-game set against the Dodgers. And let me just show you some more of Max Scherzer's stats this season, just to show you what he means to this team. He's 5-1, which is tied for the best win-loss record in baseball. 2.54 ERA, that's 16th in the league. 59 strikeouts, that's 4th. And a .95 whip, that is 9th in baseball. A guy with a career, a career ERA of 3.15 has been dominant the past couple seasons. I mean, we all know what he brings to the table. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And the Mets now are without, DeGrom and Scherzer. So you're going to need guys like Trevor Williams. If they call up David Peterson, Taijuan Walker, Chris Bassett, Carrasco. Those are going to be your guys that you need to step up. Another injury challenge for the Mets. They were able to overcome the DeGrom injury so far. Now can they overcome both of them being out? We'll find out very shortly. So we'll see how all that plays out with the Mets and Max Scherzer. Just a team that just can't stay healthy, and it's really just been their pitchers. Other than that, they've been relatively healthy all around. It's just been their pitching that just can't stay healthy. And of course, it's the two best pitchers in your rotation. It's not like it's some of these other guys. It's your two aces. So we'll see how it all plays out. But big loss obviously for the Mets that they need to find a way to overcome. All right, so coming up next, we're going to get to Juan Soto and the trade rumors. There was a report that came out that MLB executives believe he'll be traded, and then there's a report that said that his free agent, Scott Boras, says he won't be traded. I believe more the Scott Boras rumor. I don't think he's going to be traded, and if he does, get traded, which I know it's only May, and the trade deadline's in July, and I understand that, but if he does get traded, possible suitors could be both New York baseball teams. But not even just that, why the Nationals should not trade Juan Soto. I would love him to become a New York Yankee, but why it's a bad move for the Nationals if they do decide to move on with their star-studded right fielder. We'll get to that and much more coming up next. All right, so we welcome you back here up at the podcast. So we oftentimes see this in sports and reporting where you get a report that comes out about, it will be either MLB executives or an insider will say this about a player, and then another report will come out, whether it's from another insider or the player's agent or the player himself or just another report from maybe another insider or just a general report from like a news outlet that says he won't be, or this won't be happening with this player, or this guy won't be traded, this guy will be traded. And, it's obviously, as somebody who does podcasts like myself, I obviously try to pick the biggest stories in sports and talk about them and the stuff that obviously, we all know how it is with, I put my, make my show, it's mainly built around New York sports. That's mainly what I talk about. I obviously talk about outside teams and stuff, but it's really built around New York sports. As you all know, I'm a New York sports fan and all that good stuff. So, this is kind of a report for me. I've spent a lot of time figuring out whether to talk about this or not to talk about this. And my other topic was going to be about the Orioles' dumb left field wall that they have at Camden Yards, which is a beautiful stadium. I've been there before. It's an awesome ballpark. It's one of the nicest in all of baseball, and a lot of guys say that. But the left field wall is just so stupid and ugly and just so dumb, and it's something that's really affecting not only away teams but the Orioles hitters. Now, it's helping their pitching, but the Orioles still can't hit, and that's an issue. So I was going to talk about that, but I decided to talk about this, and I figured, I could talk about the Orioles Camden Yards anytime I want, and that could be a topic anytime. This is more of a topic now because this is the story. So I talked about this. Now, I just want to make this clear. It's May 20th. Nationals are struggling. They're not playing up to their ability. They just lost 2 out of 3 against the Marlins in Miami, which Marlins surprisingly actually haven't been that terrible team that everyone's used to. I mean, they're 17-20. I mean, they're one game worse in the loss column than the Braves, and they actually, have a series right now going against the Braves. I believe they open up that tonight. Not 100% sure though. But they obviously have a series right now going up against the Braves, and they're not a great team, but Nationals just lost 2 out of 3 against them. So, the Nationals right now are in a rebuild. From a team that won the World Series back in 2019, was on top of the baseball world. Then COVID hits. They have that shortened 60-game season. They weren't very good. You go into last season, weren't very good. And now this year, they're not very good at all. And record-wise, they're in the bottom of the league, record-wise. So, then you start to hear the rumors and stuff about Juan Soto and, all about that. And, we all know how the beginning of the season, prior to all the lockout, he ended up he rejected a massive contract offer from the Nationals, and it was kind of under the lines of something like, you want to see how it plays out, see what the team is like. And, there's no doubt about it, the Nationals are going through a rebuild. And the Nationals are trying to go through a rebuild without upsetting their star player like a Juan Soto, without trying to take, Juan Soto, because it's tough when you have as good as a star player as Juan Soto is. It's tough to rebuild when the guy's in his prime. Now, they obviously won a World Series. He's already won a World Series with them. He had a huge impact on that World Series team. But ever since that World Series, they have not done anything. 2020, they were bad. Last year, they were bad. And this year, they're bad as well. So, If they don't make the playoffs this year and they don't do anything the rest of the season, that's 3 bad years in a row. Out of Soto, who had one really, really good year with the World Series, other than that, he's been on a losing team. And obviously, as a star player during the prime of your career, you don't want that. So, the Nationals went out in the offseason, brought in Nelson Cruz to at least try to help alleviate the losing a little bit and show that they're still competing, but at the same time, they are kind of not tanking, but they are rebuilding and they're trying to do it quick. At the same time, trying to still surround some pieces around Soto to at least keep them competitive and at least in games and not be like the Cincinnati Reds that are a laughingstock of baseball, one of the worst teams maybe we'll ever see. I know they've been better recently, but they lost the game after throwing a no-hitter. That explains their season. But back to the Nationals, so now you hear the rumors that come out, right? The Nationals aren't, playing great. They're struggling. And now the rumors start to come out about Juan Soto. So Nationals Juan Soto won't be traded despite rumors, agent Scott Boras says. So this report I mainly believe the most. The other report you hear all this stuff about Judge with the contract and, the report that came out the other day about the Giants all of a sudden being interested in him. Look, you can only believe so much, but it would be a massive, massive mistake for the Washington Nationals, unless if Soto requests it or unless if the two sides really are just not getting along. I know Soto's off to a little bit of a slow start this year, or unless if Soto's play just completely drops off the side of a cliff and just is just not the same player he once was. Which I understand. If his play does drop off the side of the cliff, you're probably not going to drop off the side of a mountain and go tumbling down. You're probably not going to get many trade partners. I don't foresee that happening. But if any of that ever happens, or whatever it is, it would be a massive, massive mistake for the Nationals to get rid of him. Like I said, unless if it's he actually requests a trade, unless if his numbers just all of a sudden dip, or if it's I don't know. I forget, I had another reason. Or it was something like a contract or if both sides agree or whatever. It would be a massive mistake. Because when you're going through a rebuild, you always try to look for that one guy on a roster that you can at least build around. And that's what the Nationals are doing. They're trying to build around Soto. And although for Soto it's probably frustrating and it's probably tough right now in the prime of your career to go through all of this losing after you won a World Series. And it's like that team it broke up pretty fast. You were not good 2020. You were not good 2021. You have not been good this year. And now you sit here in the prime of your career and you're going through a lot of losing. And in a way, the Nationals, maybe they're going to be out of it, but it might take another year or two. For the Nationals, you at least want to build around. You want to have a foundation. You want to have a piece to build around. And that's what they're doing right now. They're building around Soto. They're trying to build this team. They got that one foundational piece. They got that. They have the foundation in place. Now it's time to start to build upwards. And if you get rid of Soto, well, now all of a sudden you just set your rebuild completely backwards. Because now you really don't have that centerpiece. Now you kind of have to wait on that star-studded prospect that Soto was. You have to wait on that guy that's that game-changer, franchise-altering type player, which is what Soto is. And now you kind of have to reset. So the Nationals are in a rebuild right now. They're building around Soto. They're coming out of it soon. If you're a National fan, you got to hope from this light. It seems like they are. They have some young talent in their farm system and up with them right now. So if you're Soto and you're the Nationals, you got to stick with each other. You got to stay with each other. I understand Soto's frustration. I get it. After you win a World Series, you would hope they continue to build off that roster. They kind of tore it apart and stripped things down. But, with Soto, for the Nationals to be a huge mistake. Because if you get rid of Soto, now you're not building around anything. You're just rebuilding for no reason. So the Nationals should not even think about pulling the trigger on a Soto trade. Unless if he requests one, unless if it really gets ugly with his relationship with the Nationals, unless if the money completely gets out of hand and they just can't spend that type of money, or unless if, his numbers really take a massive dip, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. Nationals shouldn't pull the trigger. And if they would too, which I don't think it's going to happen, they need to get a whole lot in return. I'm talking teams number 1 and 2 prospects. I'm talking bringing another outfielder, getting another big name. Soto's one of the best players in baseball. And he's so young. He's got so much talent, such a bright future. He's in the prime of his career right now. He can only get better from here. If you get rid of him, you don't realize how much of a hole that's creating on your roster. So For the Nationals' sake, you can't get rid of him. Unless if things really go wild and bonkers. But it shouldn't even be on the radar screen of the Washington Nationals. Unless if a team calls and says, we'll give you Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and all these pieces, and unless if that happens, then you trade him. But I mean, Soto's the top 5 player in baseball, top 10 player in baseball. He's one of the best outfielders in the game. Trading, that's ridiculous. That's almost like telling the Angels to trade Mike Trout. That's the type of impact Soto makes on the Nationals. I'm not comparing Soto to Mike Trout. I'm just saying in terms of impact players and franchise cornerstones, that's how much Soto means to the Nationals. They can't get rid of him. And back to the same point with Judge. You talk about jersey sales, people going to watch the games. I mean, when you're going through a rebuild and you're doing a lot of losing, not many people go to the games. You don't get many people wanting to go, but some people go to watch Soto. People go to watch a guy like a Soto who is so good both offensively and defensively, just fun to watch, high energy, just an all-around fun player. Got that little bit of that, that kind of competitiveness to him, when he's in the box staring at the pitchers. He's got that competitive fire. People go to watch him. So you can't get rid of him. And if you're the Yankees and Mets, and let's say he does come available, Yankees and Mets got to pull the trigger. Yankees probably have more prospects to give up, but the Mets right now might have more ready-made talent. Yankees probably more have future talent. That'd be different story. I don't foresee it happening. I don't think it will happen. And the Nationals should not do it. They should not. It's just not smart. You just completely set your franchise back if you do. So anyway, I don't foresee that happening. But let's read this quick article here. So the Washington Nationals sold off many of their top players last season and have started this campaign just 13-26. So it wouldn't be shocking if they reprised their role of sellers. Just don't expect Juan Soto to be one of the departing players. Forget Soto trade not happening, his agent Scott Boras told John Heyman of the New York Post. And one person within the Nats organization simply responded to Heyman, "That's not funny," regarding the Soto trade speculation. So it really shows that it's not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen if you're the Nationals. It shouldn't come as much of a surprise that the Nationals wouldn't want to deal the 23-year-old Soto, one of the game's brightest young superstars. He finished as the runner-up in the NL Rookie of the Year voting in 2018 and has finished in top 10 in NL MVP voting in each of the past 3 seasons. This season, he's hitting .250 with 8 home runs, 11 RBIs, 26 runs, and 8.864 OPS in 39 games. While that production is below his normal pace, he slashed .313, .465, .534 last season, and .351, .490, .695 in 2017 in 47 games in 2020. He remains one of the most dangerous players at the plate. He's also under club control through the 2024 season, so there's little reason for the Nationals to move him now. If he were to be put on the trade market, a number of teams would surely be willing to pay an enormous price for the young game changer who already helped lead the Nationals to a World Series title in 2019. The Nationals could restock their farm system with one deal. Yeah, but they're giving up their franchise cornerstone. And they got to hope one of those farm system young guys coming up is that kind of Soto-type player that can lead them to a World Series, that can do great things with them like Soto already has done. It's just not smart to do. The issue, of course, is that many prospects they got in return unlikely to be ever be as good as Soto, like I just said. Superstars aren't easy to come by, and Soto is still very young. Rebuilding around him makes more sense, especially if he's willing to ultimately commit to the team via a long-term extension. So, we'll see how it plays out. Interesting story there. All right, so let's get to the New York sports update, finish things off. NHL tonight, you got the Rangers Hurricanes, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, and then following that, 10:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, you got the Oilers Flames. NBA tonight, Warriors Mavs Game 2, I'll take the Warriors. MLB tonight, Yankees Mets both postponed. So, yeah, the Diamondbacks-Cubs game got completed. Diamondbacks won 10-6. Pirates-Cardinals going on right now. Braves-Marlins as well. Dodgers-Phillies tonight. Rays-Orioles. Blue Jays-Reds. Mariners-Red Sox. Tigers-Guardians. Nationals-Brewers. Astros-Rangers. Royals-Twins. Angels-A's. And Padres-Giants. I was watching that Red Sox-Mariners game last night. What a game. I mean, Trevor Story just had a dominant performance. 3 home runs, was dominant with 7 RBIs. As for fantasy baseball, my main league, I'm currently winning 195 to 173. And I've got Tariq Skubal on the mound today. That's the only pitcher going there. And as for my other league, I'm currently losing 198 to 148. But I do have 3 pitchers going today. Trevor Rogers, Adam Wainwright, and Eric Lawyer. So those are the guys going there. I did pick up Eric Lawyer the other day as a piece there. And like I said, Tariq Skubal in my other league. Real Muto, Segura, Correa, Jared Walsh. Judge I've had to take out because game obviously was postponed. So missing a couple pieces in fantasy, but still finding a way to win in my main league, which is good. And hopefully I can come back in my other league. My main league I'm 4-1. My other league I'm 3-2. So total 4-1 in my main league. That's 7-3. So pretty solid. So anyway, that will do it for the podcast here today. That will do it for another week of podcasts. So as you all know, take breaks on the weekends. So enjoy your weekend. Rangers tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. We are about just about an hour out from the Ranger game. So going to finish up this, get this uploaded, get ready for the Ranger game. Hope for the series. Hope to tie the series up, and then back at the Garden on Sunday. So that'd be big if we can win tonight. Got to come out and be ready. Get shots on that, force pressure, forecheck, all that needs to be on our A game if we want to win tonight. Need to get the job done there. So enjoy the weekend. Enjoy all the sports. Mets doubleheader tomorrow. Yankees have one game tomorrow on the doubleheader on Sunday. Hockey, basketball, that good stuff. Enjoy it all. As you all know, my Bubs Talking Baseball podcast on Apple Podcasts will be on Sunday. But for the regular All Sports Pod, I will see you all on the flip side. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.